بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين أما بعد. My dear brothers and sisters, in one of the previous reminders I shared with you some reflections on the personality of Prophet Moses, and I mentioned that Musa, may the peace and blessing of Allah be upon him, was even before prophethood, was a man with a sense of care, a sense of duty, and a sense of humanity. And I gave two examples from what has been mentioned in the Quran. One was when he was in Egypt, and as I mentioned that Musa grew in the palace of Pharaoh, so he had some privileges, but he knew and he felt the pain of his people, the Banu Israel. So when he saw an Israelite, a person from his people, being beaten by an Egyptian, then he intervened and he tried to save him. And this was an example of the sense of duty that he has. He saw something wrong, he saw somebody being beaten, so he being a young man, he came forward to defend and to help this person. Now later, when he left Egypt, after being told that the Pharaoh and his people were after him because of what he has done in terms of helping some of those who were wrong in Egypt. So he went to a place called Midian, and when he arrived there, he came across a well, and there was a group of men watering their animals. And he saw on the side two women standing and waiting. And he realized that these women were waiting for the men to finish. So he went voluntarily and asked them why they have to do this. I mean, well, generally this was a kind of job that men did at that time. So they told him that our father is an old man. So he volunteered. He took their animals, watered them, and he returned the animals back, did not ask for anything in exchange, and then they left. So now Musa is sitting under the tree and praying to Allah to bestow his favor and blessing upon him. Now, when he was in this situation, desperate, the girls or the two women, the two young women, who were very much happy with what he did for them, they went and they told their father about their encounter with Musa. And one of them said something very interesting. She said, "Ya abati ista'jirhu, inna khayra man ista'jarta al-qawiyyu al-amin." So he said, "Oh father, why don't you hire him?" And in justifying what she's suggesting to her father, she said, the best person to hire for a job is someone who is strong, qawi, and amin, honest. So she saw in Musa these two qualities, the quality of physical strength and the quality of integrity. Now you might ask and say, how did she know that he has these two qualities? The first one was obvious. I mean, Musa was physically fit and strong, and they saw that with their own eyes because he came and took the animals and watered the animals, and I mean, he did that very very easily. So that's something they saw with their own eyes. But how did she knew that he was a man of honesty and integrity? Perhaps because of the encounter they had with Musa, when first of all he came to do this voluntarily. No one among the other men thought of them. So that's an indication that he was somebody who really had a sense of care and a sense of responsibility. Further to that, perhaps they noticed that once he did his job, he was not looking around for some favors or anything that young people might be interested into. They found that this was a man who was good intention, came to help, and had no other ulterior motives. So that perhaps gave them an indication that this is a man of integrity, a man of principle, a man of values. And it's a very interesting, my dear brothers and sisters, that this experience of these women, these women with Musa, is somehow similar to the experience of Khadija with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Khadija, as we know from history, she was a widow. She was a wealthy woman. And what she used to do was she would hire men to go and do business on her behalf, traveling all the way to North Arabia, to the Levant, to Sham. Now, she hired Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam because some people recommended him to her, and they told her that he was a man of honesty and integrity. So the Prophet left, accompanied by one of her servants known as Maysara, and he accomplished his duty and he came back. And through that interaction, Khadija noticed that Muhammad was a different person. The way he transacted and the way he did the business, and how when he came back, he honestly gave to her everything that he earned without trying to cheat or without trying to cut corners, very honest, with full integrity. And when she saw that, then that was a beginning of the relationship that led to the marriage of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam to Khadija, when she has been refusing to marry anyone else. So the Prophet ﷺ, as she saw his integrity and his honesty, then the marriage happened between the Prophet ﷺ and Khadija. So now this young woman, she saw that kind of honesty in Musa, and she suggested to her father, "Oh, father, hire him." And the best person to hire is somebody who is strong, meaning somebody who has competence, somebody who's honest, somebody who has integrity. So he was called, and the father welcomed him, and they agreed that he would stay with them and serve them. And eventually he was married to the daughter, to one of the two sisters. And the scholars say that this man was Shu'aib, Prophet Shu'aib. So he married to one of his daughters, and Musa stayed with them 8 to 10 years before leaving towards Egypt. Now here, my dear and sisters, maybe let's take a moment on reflecting on the statement that this young woman made, this young woman who became the wife of Prophet Musa. She said that the best person to hire is a person who has two qualities, strong and honest. And in our current terminology, that's competence and integrity. And it's a fact of life at the organization level, at the community level, at the state level, at every level. People who have competence and people who have integrity are the ones who do the best job. You might find a person who have competence but would be lacking integrity. Or you might have a person who might have integrity but lacking competence. So both of these two qualities are important. When you have people who are lacking one of these two or lacking both, then unfortunately there will be much chaos and much mismanagement. And it's unfortunate that in the world that we live today, we see there is a lot of leadership incompetency in many places in the world today. And we will find that one of the reasons is that either you have somebody who is incompetent, or somebody who lacks integrity, or somebody who lacks both of them. And unfortunately, in many situations that we see in some nations where we see so much devastations, we find leaders who lack integrity and who lack competence, both of them. When both are missing, then unfortunately, it will be a major disaster in society. Our Prophet ﷺ was always very particular when it comes to assigning responsibility. His first ambassador to Medina was Mus'ab ibn Umair. When the few individuals who accepted Islam in Medina requested from the Prophet to send them someone to teach them Islam, Prophet ﷺ did not just randomly pick any person and told him, go and teach them Islam. He carefully selected one person, one particular person, and that person was Mus'ab ibn Umair. And why did he choose Mus'ab ibn Umair? Mus'ab ibn Umair had a very impressive personality. He was very eloquent. He was young. He was energetic. He was well informed and educated. And more importantly, he was wise and tactful. And he went to Medina, and within a year, he more than accomplished his mission. There was a kind of transformation in Medina that nobody would expect to happen within a year. And that is because the right person was chosen for the right job. And we see even in the Azan, the Prophet ﷺ assigned the Azan to Bilal not just randomly. No, because Bilal had a nice voice. And the Prophet explained that when he said, فَإِنَّهُ أَنْدَى مِنْكَ صَوْتًا. Prophet assigned it to Bilal rather than the other person and said to him, he has a more beautiful voice. So this is perhaps something we need to keep in our mind collectively as a community, that in whatever endeavor or in whatever assignment, we should seek the example of the Prophet ﷺ and always choose a person who has these two important qualities, the quality of competence and the quality of integrity. Competence meaning ability, meaning being skillful. If it is in a speaking engagement, somebody who can speak. If it is a writing engagement, somebody who can write well. If it is a managing engagement, somebody who can manage well. So also in addition to that, somebody who is honest, because If a person lacks honesty and has the skills and the know-how, sometimes the damage that he or she could cause could be much bigger. And let's pay attention, my dear brothers and sisters, that adhan, which is an important function in Islam, how the Prophet ﷺ was very careful to choose his muezzin. And it's very unfortunate that sometimes when we see the adhan being called by people who might be in a situation where someone who is much better than them is available, yet they come to the front without having that competency. So we should always be driven by these two important qualities, the quality of integrity and the quality of competence. And when we do that, our life at the community level or nation level or whatever level, and whatever endeavor that we take, the job will be done and will be done completely and correctly. And in fact, as mentioned in a hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, that one of the signs of the end of time is that إِذَا وُسِّدَ الْأَمْرُ إِلَى غَيْرِ أَهْلِ. When you see responsibilities or leadership are assigned to people who are not competent or who are not fit. And perhaps we see that in some regions where people who have no either competence or integrity, ravaging the lives of many people. And my dear brothers and sisters, there are many other lessons we can learn from this encounter between Musa and the two daughters of Shu'aib. But for today, inshallah, I will leave it at this level. Thank you very much for listening to me. وجزاكم الله خيرا. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.